Hello and welcome to Uniquely Autistic Me. I'm Kerry, born autistic, diagnosed at 51.
And today we are looking at the true cost of being social. So in order to do this video, I had a conversation with my 20-year-old son, and we discussed what the true cost of being social is. And the conclusion we reached was that for us, it depends on how safe we feel about the social situation we are entering. So if the person we are going to see is aware of our autism, actually makes allowances for our autism, then the cost is less, but there is still a cost. When we were talking about it, we were aware that there was an absolutely physical price to pay for being social. There is significantly increased anxiety. In myself, I know that if I am staying away, the cost is higher. So if I'm in a social situation for 24 hours, invariably after the 24 hours, I will actually be vomiting and have diarrhea. And I'm aware that for me, it is a case of I don't know how to leave. There seem to be unwritten rules that I don't necessarily understand. I find myself being overly compliant or trying to match the behavior I see around me, which is absolutely not my natural state. Interestingly enough, my son said he thinks the physical symptoms of anxiety and stress mean that it's the body's way of getting us out of that situation. So he said he will often take a book to the toilet, because it's socially acceptable to say you're going to the toilet, and go and read for a couple of hours. Now for me, I find that very difficult because I feel like I need to be as helpful as possible. I land up doing more and more things to try and help, but the cost to me is far greater when I do that. In order to maintain a social setting, both he and I have a tendency to eat high sugar and lots of carbohydrates as a mechanism to cope. If we're staying away from home, it leads to the fact that we struggle to get to sleep, and when we get to sleep, we wake up a lot. Also, we wake up incredibly early, which means that the second day in somewhere that is not our home is even more stressful, because on top of that, we're not actually sleeping well. So there isn't any good rest. Also, if we're staying away, we have worked out that having a safe place to leave the social situation is very helpful. So at times, we will physically stay in a different place to the people we've gone to see, which means that we have an opportunity to go away, to restore, and then come back to the social situation. And I think there are a couple of other things that play into that. For starters, the change in routine. I'm aware that we do things very differently in our home that other people who aren't autistic do. And that change of routine, which is incredibly difficult for other autistic people, but for me especially, it kind of, I feel like a tortoise without a shell. I feel very, very vulnerable being in a different location. So my best mate actually said to me, when you're in my house, you look incredibly uncomfortable. And I know that she's incredibly safe. I know that I can say anything or do anything, and that's okay. But the other part of being social is there is an expectation of small talk, and I don't really get the point of it, because it just seems to be about nothing in particular. I know we will often practice beforehand topics to talk about. It means that we have a tendency to discuss those topics because those we've practiced. Also, if it's quite a formal setting, there are social niceties which again can be quite difficult to read because a lot of them are unwritten, and trying to fit in is incredibly tiring. We actually work out strategies on how we can go away from the situation, have a break from the situation, and then come back to it. If there are animals about, we will often migrate towards the animals in that given situation so that we can focus on something, somebody, an animal who doesn't actually have a social requirement. For us, is very helpful. I tend to be a bit of a clean freak, and when I'm in a different situation, I will actually pack my own marigold gloves and my own tea towels, and if given any opportunity, and in fact in one case I actually said to a member of the family, is it right if I wash the dishes? And she looked at me and said, we've got a dishwasher. I said, I'm autistic, I really struggle with social situations, can I wash your dishes? And she said, sure. And so I washed the dishes, and by physically doing something, it gave me an opportunity to just settle a bit. When I'm away from home for an extended period of time, I try to organize that environment where I'm staying as much as possible so that I can actually cope with being in a different location. We plan to take the items that bring us comfort with us. So, for example, I am a huge Dick Francis fan, read by Tony Britton, and for me, my iPod needs to be charged. All my books needs to be on there in the correct order, and I listen to them over and over again when I get a chance, so that there is some semblance of normality in a different location. I also plan in advance the reward for me being social. It might be a little item I've been wanting to order. There is a reward for being social. Also, when we get back home, both of us are utterly exhausted. And that exhaustion can take days, weeks, or in some cases, even months to recover from. Those are real effects. The anxiety is real. The upset stomach, the headache, the nausea, the feeling dizzy, the feeling of overwhelmed sensory-wise is incredibly real. But the truth is, I love you enough to go through those things. I love my family. I love my extended family. And I love you so much, I'm prepared to go through those, even though there is a huge cost to me. But I've also learned I need to manage better. I tend to limit the amount of time because physically, I know there's an incredibly high cost. But even though there's a high cost, I still choose to do it because I love the people I'm going to see.
Thank you for spending time with me, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.